Hello and welcome back to the Transform Awards Europe, where I'm delighted to be joined now by Zag and their Chief Creative Officer, James Hurst, and their Creative Director, Dan Green. And we're going to be talking about their project with EE, which is shortlisted in the Best Visual Identity from the Technology, Media and Telecommunications sector. So James, coming to you first, perhaps you could tell me a little bit about that idea of multi-sensory branding and how that was kind of incorporated in this project.
Branding is a thing that keeps on changing, keeps evolving. We have to meet people where they are and what they're doing. For us, to make sure that EE landed and is as successful as it's been, we can't just think about the traditional brand elements that are one-to-many bits of communication. We've got to make sure we can talk one-to-one as a brand. We've got to be there where people feel something, when they think something. We've got to be something that gives people a real reason to choose and decide that EE is the right choice for them. And that's often to think really holistically about what the assets are that we play with.
And so Dan, coming over to you, perhaps you could tell me a little bit about how you strategically evolved EE's sort of well-established mobile identity to kind of ensure that it remains relevant.
Yeah, so the big move with the new brand was to move the brand beyond mobile, was a specific language that we used, and it was all about helping them sort of diversify their portfolio, moving towards this idea of a platform brand. So that ultimately, sort of to James' point, meeting the brand in more places in more ways, but also obviously enabling the brand to speak more to the different verticals and stuff that they're going to start moving into, specifically broadband at launch, but obviously moving into the wider kind of networking capabilities that they create and they offer.
Fantastic. And there's this idea within the project of dynamic responsiveness. What does that mean? Could you tell me what it means sort of in that context?
Well, the big thing is making sure that the brand can flex, that the brand knows when to step up, when to be loud and proud, and when to be quiet, when to sort of step back a little bit. People are interacting with and engaging with the brands in different places, in different ways, at different moments, whether that's on a big screen at a big event or on a little screen in our hands. We've got to make sure we've got a brand that can really respond to the places that people are playing with it.
Yeah, and I think obviously with that, the move away, not away from mobile, but towards more than mobile, the brand needs to be able to kind of adapt and flex into those different environments in a way which feels really authentic. Specifically, gaming was a really key kind of creative challenge and tension point for them. They know that gaming is obviously a huge kind of emerging market beyond sort of connectivity services, but into esports and looking at what's happening in that category. And they need a brand that can really authentically kind of act in that space. We're so used to seeing kind of commercial and corporate businesses move into that category in a way which never feels authentic and feels like a badging exercise. So they need an identity that can enable them to sort of speak the language of the people in that audience. So that a big part of the brand was about flexing to all the future categories that we might move into as well as just gaming.
And how has Zag's sort of relationship with EE changed over time? Sort of the evolution of the branding relationship that the two of you have together?
The thrilling thing about building brands today is that it's not one and done. You don't set and forget the brand work and hope that it sort of lives forever and a day. There are certain elements you need to make sure they're consistent and you are rinsing and repeating to build that brand equity. There's so much today where brands have got to be active. They've got to respond to the world that they're living in. Businesses are having to do different things. Businesses change. So our partnership with EE is built on the understanding that we will work with them to navigate those changes. We'll work with them to see what those changes even should be, and we'll work with them to make sure they're the best brand in the world.
Yeah, there's a slightly sort of cheesy line that someone in our team said a long time ago, which was that a brand should be a platform, not an anchor. And that we sort of saw it as like a versioning exercise really, where the brand guidelines that we created and the kind of development work that we did was really just a start to kind of move them and help them on this journey. And then we've been working with them ever since to kind of help problem solve and kind of address creative challenges as and when they occur and flex with the business's needs. Commercially, the business is changing all the time. So we know that there's kind of an ever-changing kind of landscape, not just for the business, but the kind of the environment around the business. Adapting to the cost of living crisis was a big thing at the time when we first obviously worked in the original development work. EE's traditionally a kind of mass market premium brand and positioned in that way. So we need a brand that can kind of allow it to continue to do that successfully. But then obviously in the current climate that we're in, there's obviously a really clear need that the brand needs to be able to pivot and speak to value in a really clear way as well. So that's just kind of an example of some of the challenges that we've been helping them sort of address as we've gone on.
Fantastic. And do you fancy your chances tonight?
We've got our fingers and toes crossed.
Fantastic. Well, James and Dan, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing how Zag and EE get on tonight at the Transform Awards Europe.